Nick, we're going to talk about what you said. I think during your top 10 of the 2010s, this showed up at the top of the list, didn't it?
Yeah, one of the best movies of the decade.
Yeah,
or the last decade. Yeah,
and since we've got a new Jordan Peele movie coming out this month, Nope. Yeah. Man is I don't know if he's the greatest title creator or the worst, but he's got.
It's that enticing kernel. Like, what's going on?
Yeah, the one-word title, the two-word titles that make you go, I know nothing about this movie yet.
You know, yeah.
So today we're going to talk about the movie that was basically his answer to. What do you do when there's scary stuff in your house?
I firmly believe in the next editions of film history textbooks, this has to be discussed.
Absolutely. Yeah. So get out, but really stay in and watch the episode. Hey everybody, welcome back to the show. I'm one of your hosts, Kyle Goethe from GoatFilmReviews.com.
Hi everybody, I'm Nick from the St. Paul Filmcast. Thanks for finding us and thanks for watching. And for our loyal fans, thank you for continuing to support the show. You can follow the show on Twitter and on Instagram. We do have a Patreon. Check that out for some great deals. And for Scary Movie Saturday, I think we picked a great one.
Yeah.
Out.
So
what's going on?
Yeah.
Like as if we didn't know.
Yeah. Chris Washington is heading to upstate New York for the weekend with his girlfriend Rose to visit her parents. As the weekend moves along, Rose's parents seem overly friendly and perhaps a little too anti-racist. But as Chris slowly peels back the layers of his hosts, there are a number of family secrets that put Chris in serious danger.
Okay, so this is a Blumhouse production.
Yes.
They definitely hit a home run with this, but they're not afraid to take risks. That's another thing about Blumhouse. It premiered at Sundance in 2017. Got through that distribution from Universal Pictures, who are very known for knowing what horror movies are.
They've had a really good run recently as well.
Yes,
yeah.
Over distributions. So yes, after that, you kind of get out in circulation, and this movie got its bearings a little bit. I think the speaking was so much, not for much advertising, is people going and seeing the movie and saying, "Hey, you got to check this movie out." Hey, and that grew it the organically grew of advertising.
Yeah, I am completely in shock at the fact that I somehow missed this in theaters. Because I think it's part of it's because it came out in February. In February, I'm still very focused on the Oscars for that year. I'm like trying to catch up and do my writing and do my stuff on that. That I tend to miss a lot of January, February releases. Also, February for horror. Still kind of in that no-no zone sometimes.
Yeah, that's the reason why I brought up the history, because it premiered in January of Sundance, and it did so well that they want to get that movie out now.
Yes.
And the slow window of movie releases is February.
Yeah.
It's almost like the September of
And
film.
it's incredible to think that a Best Picture nominee came out in theaters in wide release in February and still kept in the public conversation all the way through the Oscar season. That's incredible, because it's just like looking at it, when you watch a movie, you forget it over time. Like, you forget the impact it had. So unless you were rewatching it, keeping that conversation going. But you're right, a lot of people were talking about it with each other. Peele has always said he was a fan of horror. He was involved in that kind of stuff, and he said that the same thing I like to say a lot, which is that comedy and horror have a lot of similarities. They're all about pacing, and he made a good point too. They're all about when you drop the reveal.
It's a thin line between what is funny and what is... Because
Mel
Brooks could do horror movies.
Exactly. Yeah. They link together so well. I think there was a curiosity to Jordan Peele's first horror movie. Like, I got to see what this guy cooked up, because he's not ever really been invested in horror on the front where he worked, No. It's always been comedy. So I think seeing him kind of come through and making a horror movie, it's a morbid curiosity for me more than anything. I wasn't sure if I'd even like the movie, but I was like, it's got to be interesting at least. And I absolutely adored it.
So Jordan Peele said the inspiration came from the original movie Stepford Wives. If you know about Stepford Wives, it's the brainwashing conditioning of housewives just being housewives, not really asserting themselves, just being the accessory of doing housewife stuff to their husband. Excuse me. And so that pitch, if you understand the concept of Stepford Wives, you understand the pitch for this movie.
Yeah.
Basically, we're campaigning for it, but it's a facade. Well, everything is a facade.
It's funny because I've seen the Stepford Wives thing come up before, and I completely see the connections between them, but they're also such drastically different takes on a kind of material like that. Yeah. That it kind of, it stands aside, but it's also there. I think Sean McKittrick, who was one of the producers of this film, said when he was pitched on it, he was like, I've never seen this movie before. I've seen a lot of elements of this movie, but I've never seen it organized in this package before, and that's why I want to make the movie. And that's really true. It's got similarities to things that we've seen before, but it's rare to have a completely original idea that has just, it completely circumnavigates what we considered natural storytelling for the time, and has a completely new voice for it.
Well, when we critique art for any material, anything, we always say art is always a reflection of another thing and a reflection of life.
Yep.
So everything this is my inspiration with Stepford Wives. It's not really the source material.
It extrapolates it from there. Yeah.
It's a reflection of a different take. Jordan Peele also said that it's the anxiety of people who support Black Lives Matter, who campaign for they're white, that you don't know what their true intentions are. Are they really a facade, or they just do it because they don't want to be labeled racist? Or they're generally in support of you, and that's the anxiety is played out definitely in this movie.
Yeah, and there's a level of reckoning that I think a white audience watching this movie needs to do internally. Like, as you watch it, you need to recognize the things that you do. Like, I think his movie, maybe unintentionally, makes you really confront your inherent bias.
Yes.
What you carry with you is that even if you're, like the people that go out of their way to say, I'd vote for Obama for a third term. And it's like, that doesn't mean anything. Like, it really has no bearing at all. Or, they're completely comfortable talking about your race as being the only thing they'll talk about with you. Like, Daniel Kaluuya played the lead, stated that he wanted this. Yeah. He wanted this because of the party scene. The sequence where everyone just talks about his race the whole time. And he's the only black guy in the room pretty much. And he's searching for someone who can feel like how he feels. And he said that I've lived that scene before. And I wanted to make the movie for that reason. It's true is that I think a lot of us tend to think like, oh, we see a black person, let's talk to them about race. They're human beings. They have other things going on. There's a difference between being like I'm colorblind, I don't see color. That's not a realistic thing. You can see someone black, and you can see their blackness, and not having to make it about their race. Yeah. Every single time is exhausting. You
did a very well articulate what we call the invisible backpack. The people bring in their baggage with the conversation that you don't really see, but when they talk, you understand their background, where they're coming from. Mm-hmm. So yes, and Jordan Peele, he gets it. I think understands that when you make a horror movie, you're not going to sell the horror. What you're going to sell, the slip of comfort first. Yeah. Almost, we'll relax you a moment, and then the turn, almost, what? Wait a minute, because it's almost like what Hitchcock would do with the mysticism. We'll entice you with the mysticism. Maybe there is about mysticism, and then we go back to reality. Maybe this is about mysticism, but then a little bit it is, but we go back to reality a little bit. Yeah. I don't think being hypnotized works this well. If it does, holy crap.
Yeah, and Peele had said that he had gotten, he went out of his way to kind of create a mythology that would support the hypnotism of the film, like that this family had descended from the Knights Templar, and they were searching for the Holy Grail, and this is as far as they got. Yeah. And it's that's a really cool idea, and it's not something you need to throw in there inherently, but then you see things like the kid wearing the knight's helmet as he does the thing, you're like, okay, I kind of get what you're saying there. It's using familiar ideas in a film to tell a different story because again, we've
exactly
seen the hypnotism before.
Once again, it explains it better than I do.
But I love that this movie, when I first saw it, I liked it. I'll just say I liked it. I picked it up on home video. I watched it at home with my wife. I liked the movie, and then I thought about it for a while. And as other people brought it up and said how great it was, I was like, maybe it's even better than just good. And I watched it again. I was like, yeah, this is really good. And then I watched it again. I was like, this is great. And I watched it again this week. And I'm like, oh my God, this movie is so incredible. And rewatching it makes it stronger because you get little things like the silver spoon she uses to stir her
sound,
drink.
Right? The sound editing, sound crafting of that, right?
The fact that Rose doesn't want him to show his ID to the cop because she doesn't want a paper trail. Just all these little tiny things that are being done throughout the movie that you don't notice, that you notice again on the rewatch, that make it so much stronger and actually don't hinder the watching experience either.
No, because it's all those, it's the rewatchability factor that we appreciate. But right, the first time, it is, for a horror movie, really slow.
Yeah, not really, not a lot happens.
No, it's very subtle, very quiet. So it's almost like how Cabin in the Woods starts out very much, hey, we're having a good time.
It's more of that level of understandable confusion that you get. Because I have that watching Get Out the first time.
But Chris and Rose's relationship, you're like, they're supposed to be boyfriend and girlfriend. They're acting kind of distant. I mean, they keep the characters from a great distance. They're not really together very much. But they're like, hey, I'm going to see your parents. Oh, they will love you. They like black people and all this stuff. It's like, yeah, I heard that before,
Yeah.
Which is what the whole premise of the movie is.
Kind of like an I understand you, but it's like, no, you don't. You don't. And this is, again, us talking about it as if we were black as well. We're not. We'll never understand that kind of situation. No. But, Jordan Peele does a great translation of, see what I see. And that's really cool.
Once again, he tells it better than I do.
Much like when we talked about Boys in the Hood last season, was it's a movie that is about someone who's not me. And I tend to really gravitate towards movies that are about people.
It's a world that we're not familiar with.
Because
that's why we love
walk
movies.
in their shoes for 2 hours. Even if and I'll never be able to understand the same level that Chris Washington felt in this movie. I can understand a little bit.
You can relate to the anxiety about it.
Yeah.
You're selling me something, I'm not buying it yet, even though we're supposed to be a relationship. But it's that, almost like Psycho, it's that we know we're getting somewhere, and we know everything is uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And eventually, how are you going to show it? Because, Bradley Whitford has been in comedies. If he's Bradley Whitford, is like, all right, crack me some jokes.
He's been in Cabin in the Woods.
Yeah,
he's gotten
show me some funnies, or do something funny or hilarious. But then when he reveals himself, he's not looking at the camera. He's looking at the television.
Yeah.
And who would you? Tell me your identity, right? Yeah.
Well, it's interesting that the film has so much comedy in it, but it never feels like a character is stopping to crack a joke, and that extends all the way out to Lil Rel Howery, who is kind of our comedic relief in the film, playing our TSA agent.
Well, you got a comedy actor, Stephen Root.
Yeah, but he plays it straight. Bradley Whitford, he makes jokes, but he makes the kind of jokes that guy would have made. It's not like he doesn't stop the narrative to make a joke and then continue on. It's like a horror comedy hybrid in some ways, where the comedy just gives you just enough to laugh, where you forget you're watching a horror movie, and then it pulls you back in again. It's a tremendous handling of pacing and reveals. That is what Peele went to with his two most important elements: pacing and reveals, which completely carry the film the entire way through.
Yeah, and it has that very surreal movie quality to it, like the guy running in the backyard.
Yeah,
which is very very surrealistic, but it fits for the movie. But you understand, what is is it part of this? Why are you potentially putting this movie? And it explains it eventually.
Well, and that's the thing too, is his movies, both this and Us, and I can tell from the trailer of Nope, is that Jordan Peele likes to put what I call his first time weird shit, which is the first time you watch it, it's just weird shit. It's the guy running straight at the camera is really unnerving and strange, and I think it's a throwback to kind of the North by Northwest. Him running at the camera makes it really
yes. It's talked about Hitchcock, and we'll talk about it when it's counter what he calls counterpoint.
Yeah. Which is, the first time you see a lot of his movies, there's things like the guy running at the camera that's very unusual and strange. There's the way that the certain characters interact in the film, Us even. And then the second time you watch it, knowing information, you start to put together those little nuggets where you're like, oh, that's odd that you did that, but it's clever. And the third time you're like, no, it's just straight clever. Having the Jesse Owens storyline and then giving us all those hints and letting us work our way through it is really clever. It's really fun.
But it seems wrong, because you won't do that. As a filmmaker would say, don't run at the camera, just not at the camera, just kind of off the side, but you embrace the camera.
Yep.
Which is really bizarre, almost like if somebody did that, you're like, oh, wrong take, let's do something else. But he intentionally does that at the camera, almost like forcing you to watch it.
Yeah. And Peele, I think what works the best in his movies is because he comes from an acting standpoint. He said that he realized it was time to retire from acting when he saw Daniel Kaluuya's audition, where he did the hypnotism scene 2 or 3 times and had the single tear every single time he did the scene.
Daniel!
And Peele was like, okay, I'm done acting now. I can't do it anymore. Because he is an actor's director, and he's got a great vision, but he's an actor's director. There was a notion I'd read with Martin Henderson, who plays the gardener who was running at the camera, and he said, I want you to pretend like you're a 5-year-old who has a secret
I don't know how
that
they do
he's just learned. And you can see that in the way he acts then, where he's kind of holding a secret in. He's an actor's director, and that it's the style that's really the added effect of it all.
I don't know how they do it. I'm sitting in auditions, we've sat in auditions, and people just do you need therapy? No, this is it. You're like, you just pulled your guts out. You damn near threw up from crying, and this is an audition.
Yeah,
I'm fine. All right, what do you want me to do next?
Well, especially working in the independent side of things. I've done auditions in a library office room where I rented that office.
I love this famous story. Yeah,
and then this one woman comes in and she's openly crying and angry, and she's tugging at her shirt and doing. And I'm think to myself, this is an incredible performance. and people outside this office are probably very confused. And you know, that's
they're not
kind
afraid.
of the
I don't know how
nature
they do
of
it.
it. Yeah.
Right. And Daniel Kaluuya is fantastic.
Yeah, and it's unfortunate. Well, it's fortunate that he's been able to continue working the way he is. It's sad that so many films have kind of pigeonholed his character as he's got to play someone who's about race. Like so many movies he's done have been about race, like Black Panther, Judas and the Black Messiah, Queen and Slim, all incredible movies.
Queen and Slim is actually one of the
lot of the stuff he doesn't even have to be about race. I think like his turn in Widows as the supporting actor in that movie is fantastic, but it's a character that's not inherently about race in the same way that so many others are. I want to see him get more opportunities playing characters that are not about race. And maybe that'll be the case in Nope. I don't really know much about Nope. But yeah, Kaluuya is one of the best actors to come out of the last 5 years. I know he's been working since before then, but he's exploded in the last 5 years, and he deserves to do so.
Yeah, so one of the things we talk about with filmmaking is not only you have a great story, you have a great script, also a little bit of highly original, but you have to assemble a great cast. And this is casting director,
Yes.
fantastic. And this is picking the right people for it because, as you can see, the white people in this movie look non-threatening. Almost like, fine, I can take you, I can punch your lights out.
Yeah.
But you understand the non-threatening is the threat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You
I think
understand?
getting Catherine Keener to play
Right,
the
she's
mother,
been
she's
nice
almost always
in all the
played a
movies.
sweet character.
I don't.
She's in the movie Jackass Presents Bad Grandpa playing a dead body, and you still are like, I bet she was a nice person. Like that's just how she
Right,
is.
even after
you
this
know?
movie, I go, I bet she's sweet and she's making cookies when she came to this.
Yeah.
And everything. Right.
I want to make a point about Allison Williams, who I think she
Plays,
had done
Rose.
Rose.
Yeah.
She had been on the show Girls. I don't think she'd had any major films up until this. I think this was like her entrance into
very
working in
fresh.
film. She also did a horror movie called The Perfection recently that was really cool. She was chosen
a new
because it was on Netflix. She plays a violinist, and it's
see,
like
that's why I haven't found-
It's
all
a
right.
really messed up movie, but it's
right.
fantastic. She was selected by Jordan Peele. He said because she had that kind of feeling that she was the girl you'd fall in love with at a summer camp. I completely understand what he's saying about her because she has this level of she's beautiful, but it never feels like it's like out of your reach beautiful. She's got this kind of open warmth to her character, and I think that's one of the reasons why she
that's
said
her name.
after the
Why her
fact-
name is Rose.
Yeah,
Right.
She said after the fact that people always come up to her and they said Rose was hypnotized, right? And she's like, no, she was part of this evil family. Like it's part of who she is. And they're like, no, she had to be hypnotized. And I know why, because she does a performance that is so good that I want to believe that she's hypnotized. I want to believe
you
that
know
in
she's
this
not.
house. Yeah.
Yeah.
But
She
I
knows
question
she's
it
just
every
big.
time I watch the movie. I'm like, can't she be hypnotized? Because she plays it so well. She said Peele had asked her to play two different characters, Rose and what they called Ro-Ro, which was the white Armitage family member who
Ro-Ro.
separates her cereal from her milk.
Ro-Ro.
You know, her colored cereal from her
It
white
works,
milk.
man. And how many mythology stories of the beautiful siren lures everybody to their doom?
Exactly, and I think it's funny that it's,
Knowing
it's not
that
just
no-
men.
yeah.
Like she's got the women too. Like she's perfectly comfortable, and her family is perfectly comfortable putting her out there to bring in, you know, men to be taken and women to be taken.
The whole point of the sirens. You know it's wrong to go there, but it's just, I gotta go.
Yep.
So you just tie yourself to the boat so you don't have to think about it.
Yeah, and I think Rose's character is one where I think white audiences, and this is again going back to why we want her to be hypnotized, is that white audiences want they expect kind
Get
of
out
one,
card?
one white person.
They
to
wanted
be a
their
good
own
person.
get out card, like,
Yeah.
oh yeah, see, they're just.
There's got to be one white person that's good in this movie, right?
Yeah.
And this is a movie that doesn't out and out say, and I truly believe this is a movie that doesn't say that white people are bad. In a way that I think the Black Christmas remake was very heavily men are bad. Whereas like Get Out is not saying all white people are bad. They're just saying all white people carry in with them inherent bias, and we can overcome that.
But that's why I love this movie. There is no refreshness get out card.
Yeah.
There is no ex machina coming to save the day of, oh, this is all of our Rose saying, I've been forced to do this. I'm really a good person. I'm so sorry. You're not going to get that.
Yeah.
That's what makes it a horror movie, because there is no softness to this. It's projected soft and lovely, but it is a brutality
Yep.
of taking person's consciousness and using it as a vessel for your own needs.
Yeah, and seeing the way that the actors are able to flip on a dime, having Rose
Yeah.
making the face of the evil character while she's on the phone with Rod, talking like she's a good person, or seeing Catherine Keener go from a comfortable, like, let me hypnotize you to sink into the floor. Like, tell me, I'm going to tell you what I need you to do right now.
Yeah, it's that flitch that actor's director understand actors need, is that turn on.
Yep.
Yeah.
This is also a movie that I think, now I've watched 11 deleted scenes. I've watched the alternate endings to the movie. I want to talk about that really quick because it's a movie that all of those scenes that were deleted, I understand why they were written, I understand why they were shot, and I understand why they were cut. Because I think in screenwriting, we tend to notice this. You can kind of give away the same information multiple times in a screenplay, and it works just fine.
Right. But
when you see the finished film, you need to understand where things work, where they don't. There's quite a number of scenes in the deleted scenes for this film that give away where the movie's headed before it needs to. You know, where it leaves us in a dark a little bit more. Right. And I think all the scenes that were deleted were necessary deleting, with one exception. I really like, there's in the sunken place, there's this like deer skeleton that we see in the trailer that appears and like chases after Chris while he's stuck in the sunken place. Bizarre. And it's just a really jarringly creepy visual.
But it has no, like, where do we retain from?
It doesn't need to be in the movie. I just love the way that the effect looks, and I wish it was in the movie.
Well, if David Lynch did this movie, it would be in it.
Exactly.
Right. But understand, when we do writer's workshop and you do screenplays, you can't cut from nothing. You have to cut from something. So definitely put more in your script that you understand that's not going to be part of it. You have to cut from something. And if you think about, does this story need to be, put it in the movie and cut it.
Yep. Yeah. And then back to the alternate ending. Have you seen the alternate ending for the film?
No.
So the original ending, this is the first one that was done, was the film ends with him like basically like having Rose in his arms. He's about to strangle her, and instead of Rod pulling up, it's the police, and he gets arrested and he gets taken in. But the thing is that since he was hypnotized, he doesn't remember anything about the family. So he killed these people. He's responsible. He's in jail, and he's like, well, at least whoever it is, they can never do this again. And it's like, I understand the need for that in your screenplay, but this having so many comedic elements to it, and Chris being a good enough person, I want him to have earned something good. You know what I mean?
A way out of it.
I think the joke at the end about, like, I told you shouldn't have gone over there, man. Like, TSA, we handle shit. You know, like, I think that's a better ending for the film than the dour ending. And I know that the dour ending is maybe more realistic to how things would go. But as a viewer, I think Chris has earned the ability to walk away after this.
Right, yeah.
And that's why I like the ending that's in the film.
Even though you want the kind of the harshness of, like, we're doing a horror movie, you like that ending, but understand we're going to pop it at the end as well.
Exactly, yeah. One other thing I want to make mention of is the reaction by some white audiences to the movie. And how, like, and Peele knew about this too. He said he worried for a while about the box office numbers because he said this movie might like not bring in white audiences. And I didn't not see the movie for that reason. I just was so busy with Oscar stuff I didn't go to see it. But I would have gone in the heartbeat to see a horror movie. But he did talk about, like, the genesis of the idea started happening in what he considered the post-racial lie, which is Obama became president and automatically racism is gone. Like, there's no racism.
We're done with it. Right.
You know, and I think that was probably the case when the slaves were freed, too, was racism's done. Like, we freed the slaves. And then civil rights and segregation, well, racism's done now. And it's like, it's not done yet. Like, just because we've made a step doesn't mean we've made all the steps.
So we talked about through history, it moves. So you're done with slavery, but it transitioned into baseball.
Yeah.
You segregated baseball. It transitioned to schools. So you segregated schools. So you don't get you get rid of it in one aspect, but a lot of it goes into another place.
Yeah.
So eradicating racism is every levels. So a lot of people say, well, we got rid of racism in baseball, so we're done.
Yeah. No. And I think a lot of white people, especially recently, have had to reckon with the fact that, you know, we still carry with us elements of unintentional, but it's there in some of us.
Well, that's it, right? And we're still for a black man to direct a movie.
It doesn't happen. You know, so I think
we're still in the wake of
the very controversial writer Armand White, who was, I think, the first Rotten score on Rotten Tomatoes, and he's allowed to not like the movie, but he referred to it as a Get Whitey movie, and I completely disagree. I don't think this is a movie that says black people are good and white people are bad. It's not about
it's projecting black anxiety.
Yes.
About every step, even though people have good intentions, that every step you have to think about. I told you not to go there. Right.
Yeah.
That's the whole point of the movie, the ending.
You know, I think because the Armitages are kind of a blanket for like how a black person would feel being in white society, is that we view them as like almost like a thing, like we can tell you when you're a black person that you can't kneel for what you believe in, but any other person isn't told to shut up and dribble. They're told you can have your say in things, but it's like automatically when a black person speaks up, it's like shut up and dribble is what we tell them, and it's like that's kind of what this movie is about in a lot of ways. And the funny thing is, the reaction to it by some people is anger when we can each be better, and I think that's what the lesson of the film can be.
It would be require film viewing if I had a film class.
There you
go.
go.
There you go. Get Out.
Yeah, I absolutely adore this movie. I've loved it more and more every time I watched it. Yeah. Even though I think I'm entertained by Us a little bit more, I think Get Out is a better movie. It's kind of got that Karate Kid 2 element again, where I think this is a better movie, even though I kind of do watch Us more, because it's just more of like a streamlined, I can watch a horror movie and just not, and kind of shut my brain off for a bit and enjoy it.
Right, yeah. There's a lot of things you have to focus, you have to pay attention.
Yeah.
Which is intentional.
But I really, really enjoy this movie. I'm glad we got to visit it again. And let us know your thoughts on Get Out down below. Yeah. I guess you can't really say if there's like, do you like this one or Us more? Maybe if you're watching this episode after Nope comes out, give us our ranking of your 3 Jordan Peele horror movies. He's got a trifecta.
He's got to keep making movies so we get like a Hitchcock collection and get the Jordan Peele collection.
I know, because I don't have that kind of space on my shelf for these things individually. So, but yeah, while you're down there, please like and subscribe. They're things that you can do. They don't cost you a dime, and they help to support the channel. Plus, you never miss new episodes of the show. We got new episodes Mondays, Thursdays, and Scary Movie Saturdays. Thank you guys for joining us for that. And you can find all my film reviews over at goatfilmreviews.com.
You can find my show, The St. Paul Filmcast, anywhere you find podcasts. And before I go, always forget, we are members of the Minnesota Film Critics Alliance. Check out that website for other film critics reviews.
Yep. So get out and go see some movies.
Yes,
and then
do it.
Come on back in and watch us talk about them.